This episode of The Envelope is brought to you by Max's Emmy Awards-nominated original, Hacks, for your consideration.
I always assumed that I was going to have to write my own roles. And then acting kind of started to take off and the ball kind of kept rolling, and it was like, okay, maybe there's a few here and there. And I just never imagined that anyone would ever have had someone like me in mind for something that they were writing.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Envelope podcast. My name's Yvonne Villarreal, and I'm joined here today by my colleagues,
Mark Olson
and Sean Finney.
And today we have two guests that were part of these shows that were epic in scope and also epic in the cultural conversation that they ignited. Mark, why don't you tell us who you spoke with?
I spoke to Nava Mau from the show Baby Reindeer, and I think when that show came on to Netflix, when it went live on the site, it wasn't with a lot of fanfare or expectation. And Yvonne, you can probably speak to the power of the Netflix recommendation engine, but it seemed like in an organic way, people really did just discover this show and built it to be one of the most watched series in the life of Netflix. And so it was written by, and stars Richard Gadd. It's based on a sort of real life events that happened to him. It's about a struggling comedian in London who begins to be stalked by this woman who comes in the bar where he works, and it brings up a lot of issues from his past. And kind of parallel to that, he's also launching into this new relationship with a trans therapist named Terry, and that's the character played by Nava Mau. And the character of Terry and Nava's performance really provides this really grounding center to the show, and just sort of like an earthy realness to some of as the show kind of goes on some really wild twists and turns. And it's been a real breakthrough for Nava as a performer. Up until now, she's been in smaller projects. A lot of them were self-generated by herself. This has made her the first trans performer nominated in the supporting actress in a limited or anthology series or movie category.
She's sort of getting on people's radar. She's next going to be in the new season of You, right, on Netflix?
Oh,
Very
she's the new season of You?
Yeah.
Wow, that Netflix, that recommendation we talked about.
See?
The powerful
They're
of that.
coming for you, the algorithm.
What about you, Sean? Who did you talk to?
I spoke to the legendary Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays Yoshi Toranaga in Shogun. Shogun is so beautiful. It's so beautifully shot, but it's really focused on love, power, and war. And he plays the leader of the expansive Kanto region, adapted from the book. Then there was an 80s series, and then now we have the new Shogun, which made history, being, I think, over 70% Japanese.
Wow.
At the Emmys, and that had never happened before to receive that many nominations. And also just his career and his life. He's been over in 50 series and 50 movies. Over a 50-year career. I think he started in 1966. And so one of the questions that I asked him was I could obviously ask you what has changed since 1966 in terms of how you approach characters, but I asked him what has stayed the same. And his answer I really, really appreciated, which kind of gave the full scope and just his general and genuine excitement of this. And it's always incredible when you see and feel their excitement about the nomination, but also just about what it means in the cultural zeitgeist.
Well, in 20 years, I'm going to ask you what has stayed the same for you in this business. So start prepping your answer.
I'm prepping now.
Yeah, okay, get ready. But first, Mark's interview with Nava Mau after the break.
For the Los Angeles Times and the Envelope podcast, I'm Mark Olson, and I'm here today with Nava Mau from the show Baby Reindeer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
And now when the show first came on to Netflix on the platform, it was kind of with relatively little fanfare or expectation, and just almost from the moment it went on the site, people were finding it. It very quickly became, I believe it's among the most watched shows ever on the platform. What was it like to kind of go through that moment, to have people discover the show in the way that they did?
It was unbelievable. I mean, I don't think any of us expected that it would reach as many people as it has. It was kind of like I woke up and I realized I was on a plane and the plane had already left, and then I just had to see where the plane was taking me, And
now for you, what is it that you think people are responding to? Why do you think people have had such enthusiasm for the show?
I mean, there's so much in the show for people to latch onto and to connect with. obviously there's Richard's story, which I think is the heart of the show, and also what is so beautiful about of the series is that, you know, Richard's writing really casts the other characters in this same light of vulnerability, and I think that we can see different parts of ourselves in all the characters, and so I know I felt that way reading the script, and I think that audiences have felt the same way.
And then were you surprised that there was so much attention to the real story and there was so much curiosity about like who was the real Martha?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that because for me it was the script, you know, this phenomenal script, and then the experience of working together on what really felt like a process of discovery and connection, and you know, it felt like it was a process of release when we were filming, and so the characters were the characters that lived on set and the script and now live on screen. So to me, that's what I think of when I think of the show. So I really was very surprised, yeah.
So is there a real Terry, or was that like a conversation you ever even had with Richard?
She's based on somebody that Richard dated during that time in his life. So, you know, she's out there somewhere, yeah.
What's wrong? Not that big showdown you were hoping for.
I don't know, it's just like odd that she had self-restraint all along. Makes me think she wasn't all that mad to begin with.
Now you're talking like the crazy one.
I'm not crazy. 40,000 law firms says otherwise.
Hey, this is still a mentally ill woman that we're talking about here.
Okay.
I'm still a therapist. At the end of the day, I can't be seen indulging. Rank impressions, Baby Reindeer, baseless lies and slander.
What was that? Was that a Martha impression? Wow.
And then when people talk to you about the show, like fans, I can only imagine those conversations probably very quickly get very intense and very personal. What has it been like for you to sort of like receive that?
I don't know. I think I'm used to maybe receiving a lot of intensity, and I worked with survivors of violence before I started acting. I was a counselor, and so I have a lot of experience with holding space for people's trauma, and for it to be something that we're relating to. You know, it's I don't know. I think that is actually what has drawn me to acting and filmmaking is that I am invested in stories about healing. I'm invested in stories that are unafraid to confront trauma and shame. And so to me, it's like, well, the whole point of being a part of something like Baby Reindeer is so that people engage with the topics in the show, and that people engage with it in their own language, with their own people and their own communities. So it's been an honor to get to engage in that conversation. Yeah.
And is that what appealed to you when you first read the script? Like what was it that you sort of connected with about the character?
It's so funny, like having to think back now, because it's been actually 2 years. I just remember feeling like I was already part of the world in the script that I was reading. It was very familiar, you know, and I think that feeling is rare for me, at least. I don't know that I'd ever seen writing that felt like it had come from a place of actually knowing a trans woman, let alone having loved a trans woman, and that depicted the dynamics that I'm very familiar with when it comes to dating as a trans woman, and how that comes with walls of shame and it just was so courageous in confronting that from the perspective of really like the other side, you know. I don't know that I'd ever really even had a conversation with a cis man who could speak to that perspective in real life. And so to see it in a script and that it's going to be a series and there's maybe a role for me, you know, it was surreal, you know.
Because do you often feel like that you get scripts that sort of don't have that? Like, is it a struggle for you as a performer that you're looking for a certain kind of role that just doesn't exist for you?
Well, yeah. Yeah, of course. I think that I always assumed that I was going to have to write my own roles. And then acting kind of started to take off and the ball kind of kept rolling, and it was like, okay, maybe there's a few here and there. And I just never imagined that anyone would ever have had someone like me in mind for something that they were writing. You know, Baby Reindeer is the second series I've ever been on. And it's also like the only callback I've ever had aside from the other role that I was cast on. So to me, it just was like the world was shifting in that moment that I saw that maybe this was a possibility.
And I saw in another interview that you did where you talked about how you feel like a lot of times you're put in this position of having these kind of baseline conversations about trans representation, and that there's other conversations, other aspects of your life, both on and off screen, that you don't get addressed. Like, and in some ways I'm asking this question selfishly, like what are the conversations that you feel like you're not having?
That used to be the case maybe more before Baby Reindeer came out. I think that honestly a lot of the journalists that I've been talking to have had great questions. And, but I think maybe what I was speaking to in the past was that so often trans characters have been placed within stories simply as a token of representation, or simply to, I don't know, color in the background to make other characters appear more colorful, when in fact it's actually the trans character that is bringing that life into the story. And it's because trans people have such rich interior lives and social networks and complex lived experiences, and there's so much to draw from. And it's rare, I think, for a script to reflect that reality. So I think that's maybe what I meant in the past. I don't know, but I actually feel like it's been beautiful to get to talk about the story and you know, the sort of difficult parts of it as well. You know?
One of the things I appreciate so much about the character and your performance is that Terry is so grounded and centered. Like, she really knows who she is. You have a great line early on where she says, "I'm not hiding from anyone." And is that something that appealed to you about her as well?
Yes. I mean, well, also it was something that was very challenging and I was a little afraid of, because at least at the time when I was first coming to the role and preparing to film, I was not like Terry. You know, I am anxious and can have a lot of self-doubt, and I have fallen hard, and it's been a struggle to get back up, and so I think to see a character like Terry who seemed to have it all together, you know, and seemed to always know what to say and what she needs in every moment, and is not afraid of that need, and she's not afraid of her emotions. It was daunting, you know, so I had to really figure out that internal structure that I think she has, that allows for that level of confidence, and I think now I do have that to fall back on as well, thanks to Terry.
Whatever you're doing, it's working.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying. We've met 6 times now. All you seem to do is crack a bunch of jokes, then leave early. A girl should be insulted, but I hate that it intrigues me.
Well, I like to take it slow. I'm a gentleman in that respect.
You never walk me to the tube. You never tell me about your life. You're not on Facebook. I can't tell if you're genuine or I'm gonna wake up one day inside a true crime podcast.
And then the performance goes to some very dark moments. Specifically, I'm thinking of when Martha, the stalker, attacks Terry. Had you ever performed a scene quite like that before?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I did not know if I was going to be able to pull it off. I knew how important that scene was for the story, and in reading the screenplay Richard's writing, I also knew exactly what it meant for Donnie, and in his perspective. And so there was a lot weighing on that scene, and really that final shot. Mm-hmm. So I felt a lot of responsibility, and I was scared to do it. So I tried my best and prepared, and I think by the time we got to film it, I don't know. I just got to let go and go as far as it needed to go,
And what did you do to prepare for it? Like, what were some of how did you kind of get yourself to that place you needed to be?
Well, it was kind of like building like a house of Terry's backstory, her family, the relationship with Donnie, her previous relationships, really paying attention to the words that Martha was saying, the racism, the transphobia, the physical attack, and kind of like having all of those situated in my mind, because it happened so fast that I knew that on set I would not have time to like be figuring it all out. The house needed to be built so that as I run through it, everything's already in place. And when Terry's on the floor and everything is smashed to pieces, like I can kind of recognize all the pieces. So that was like the sort of mental prep, and I came to set with these little note cards. I was trying to remember what I wrote on all of them. It was 4 note cards, but it was each one of them was a question that Terry would be asking herself after the attack, because I think when something like that happens to you, your whole sense of reality is shaken, and you kind of have to like figure out what you can hold on to now that you're literally on the floor, and I did give them to a PA, and I remember right before we did that final shot, I asked her, I was like I need the note cards, and everyone was like, no, don't mess up the scene, and I was like, no, trust me, we need the note cards. It was I don't know, it worked, I guess. Yeah.
And then that scene is sort of followed by a scene between Terry and Donnie where Terry's talking about what that attack meant to her, and in some ways the emotions of that scene struck me that it might almost has been as difficult or more difficult than the actual attack. Like, how did you find shooting that second scene with Donnie?
It's that one was another one where it was actually multiple days that we were in that room. That was the only scene that we did on a sound stage for me, and I just had to be so depressed because time had passed in the story to where I knew that Terry had been in this state for like weeks now potentially, and so I actually was having the best day, I think there's a picture of me from that day, and I'm like, I'm just like flying, and then I had to remind myself what it feels like to be depressed. So luckily I had that in my arsenal. I know what that feels like. So I landed on recalling the physicality of it. It's not so much the mentality, the thoughts or the emotions. It's actually, in a state of depression, there's like a cellular contraction, like your muscles are tight and it just feels like everything's heavy and your eyes are tired and you know, you just kind of want to fall into the ground and never come back out. And so I had to stick to that physical feeling. I don't know. It was, I don't know. I just knew how important it was. And
As you said, the character's a therapist, and so on the one hand, like she has like a sort of a vocabulary and an ability to like understand emotion and to understand behaviors that makes her such an interesting like point of focus in the series. Like she always kind of like reads what everybody else is doing so clearly. And I know you, as you mentioned, you yourself were like have worked as a counselor. Like, did you feel like that helped you in understanding the character, or like in those moments when Terry is like in her therapy mind, did you feel like you like understood where she was coming from?
Yeah, that's so funny. That's taking me back. I do work with an acting coach for all my roles, and it's such an incredible process whenever we work together. And that was one of the things that we kind of came up with was the light switch is what we called it, of Terry the therapist and Terry the seductress. And so they don't really mix. That's what I kind of realized. Like she's kind of in one mode or the other, and sometimes she's kind of flipping back and forth. But that was something that I had to find was like the therapy mode, and I mean that maybe I had a cheat code because I was a counselor once upon a time, and I know what it is like to be in a room one-on-one with somebody who's really deeply struggling and maybe has never been able to share with somebody. And so there's little counseling tricks like validating someone's emotions, I think, is very important. And exploring options is another, strategy. So it's like not posing any leading questions, not expressing any judgment, and I think that creates space for somebody to feel safe in opening up. And I won't say more because that might get into like FBI interrogator territory. But yeah.
Up until now in your career, you've done a lot of work that you've self-generated. Like you've written, directed, and starred in like a number of short films that you've made. What does that do for you when you get a job as, just a performer? Like, is it hard for you to sort of give up like that agency and responsibility?
No, I love it. I actually think that I've enjoyed acting the most in other people's writing. It has to be good. But but I think there's like this stretch that happens in me trying to become this person that somebody else has created or somebody else has known from their life, and I think that's a very interesting kind of friction that can happen, especially when I do have traits that are actually opposite to the character. I think that's the most fascinating, is when an actor has traits that are opposite to the character they're playing. That, I think, creates like an electricity on screen. And so I've always really enjoyed it. I love being directed. Like, I don't know. I love to be part of the project in whatever way the project needs me to be a part of it. So when I'm a writer-director, it's because that story needed to come out of me, and that's the process that it called for. I've produced other people's passion projects, and it's always an honor to support somebody in telling their story, and I just feel the same way when I'm acting, that it's a privilege. It's an honor to be a part of the story.
Because your most recent short, All the Words But One, as I understand it, you shot after you had done Baby Reindeer. And so was there anything that you sort of learned or like took from Baby Reindeer that you were able to like take back to your own work?
Yeah. It's those projects kind of live in like the same cycle. They kind of ping pong back and forth because I wrote it before I got cast on Baby Reindeer. Then I was cast on Baby Reindeer, and then I kind of started working on pre-pro a little bit for the short, and then I filmed Baby Reindeer, and then I came back and went right into filming. And so they did live in the same place in my heart. I needed to play Terry, and I needed to make this film. I've been through some things, and I think that often we don't realize that we're still carrying it, and so I've found the blessing of working in film and TV as a way to process. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's almost like I found like the courage. Mm-hmm. I found it's like I felt what it's like to fly on Baby Reindeer when we're filming. And that actually comes from letting go. So on set for All the Words But the One, I actually didn't watch a lot of playback. I didn't ask for too many takes for my own performance. I told the actors, there's not a right way. It's actually that we just need to see what happens, and we need to have options. And then in the edit, we're going to see what happens, and we're going to look at the options. And so it's you. If you're too fixated on getting it right or doing it a certain type of way, then you don't get to fly. So I think that I wouldn't have quite known what it actually feels like to get there if I hadn't done Baby Reindeer.
And then given how raw this work has been for you, what has it meant to you to then see your performance in Baby Reindeer be recognized in the way that it has? I mean, to be nominated for an Emmy.
I don't even really understand it in terms of like the scale or the history of it. I'm reminded when other people, I think, express how much the work has affected them, how they're inspired in their own work and in their own lives. It's so cliche, but I'm like waiting to see if I'm gonna wake up and it just was all a dream. And I don't know. I think for me, it really is about the process and the collaboration. And so to be recognized by people who also do this kind of work it's just an honor, and I'm very grateful for it.
And then has the role and the recognition for it opened some doors for you? Like, have you gotten, whether it's, offers for other roles or, for your own work to maybe get some, funding or open doors for you in that way? Like, has the recognition for the show, like, done some new things for you?
I think that the, doors are open, and I've been able to meet some amazing people, and I'm feeling very personally inspired to, revisit some dreams that maybe I felt were too big. But I still have to step through the door, we still have to see who else is in that room. And just because the door is open doesn't mean that the work has been done.
Because I've always thought that must be such a challenge when you feel like you're sort of like in a moment, is to know the best way to take advantage of it, to capitalize on it, to like, what's the most productive way to like move forward through it?
I have decided to just stay on the ride right now. I tend to be a very grounded, earthly being. And I have embraced that there is so much happening and so much change that has occurred very quickly and will continue to occur. So I just need to embrace being up on the ride for a little bit, and I'll know when it's time to land. Yeah.
Well, I know I certainly am excited to see where the ride takes you. Nava Mau, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And after the break, Sean's interview with Hiroyuki Sanada from Shogun.
Hiroyuki Sanada, you have been at, I believe, like in global cinema and cultural conversation for over 50 series and films, over 50, first of all, 50 years. Like, can we just talk about, what does that, when you hear that, what is the first things that come to your mind?
Actually, I started from the modeling when I was 4 years old. And then the child actors school called my mom and is he fancy doing acting on TV or movie? I said, yes. And then I started, training for acting when I was 5. And just 6 months later, I got an audition. And then I took first role in my life for the movie. It was son of Yakuza role, black and white.
Yep.
Of course, it was 1965. Wow. So that was my first movie. I just, I was interested in acting on set, so I wanted to continue forever.
Did you think it would be, that it would carry you here to now, that it would stretch this amount of time? Did you think it would take like this much amount of time?
Yeah, I could never have imagined when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I always watching Hollywood movie, European movie. So I started thinking I want to work with them in the future.
Yeah.
Then I started training, dancing, singing, acting, martial arts as an actor. So, just dreaming, and sometimes went to New York, London, watching theater play, musical, and then what's going on? The world level is, and then where is Japan now? Where am I now? What I need to do for the future if I want to work with them. Then, continue thinking. And then finally, when I was 40, took the role in the Shakespeare company. It was my first experience to speak in English in front of the live audiences. I was so scared. It was my biggest challenge in my life. But at that time, I've learned, the mixing culture and to make something new is so interesting. It's difficult, of course, but very important to the future for me, I thought. Then started, searching the international project. Then I got the audition for The Last Samurai. That was my first Hollywood movie. So if I had no experience for the Shakespeare, I never took the audition for The Last Samurai.
And how it's all kind of connected
everything's
in some way.
connected.
The modeling, starting there, being 5, going in there. You said first film 1965, and I think 1966 was A Game of Chance?
Yes.
You did as well.
Yeah.
It's like when you think about that, right? When I think about that stretch of that career, I'm like, the easy question I think would be like, how different now is your approach? Because you were so much younger. How different is your approach to film and to your process? But I'm actually curious, like, how similar is your approach from 1965, 1966? How are you still approaching being on set, getting into character, learning about the characters? Like, how is that still a part of it, like the same and similar?
I believe now is most similar as a child actor.
Wow.
I feel. I mean, 20s, learning a lot, different ways, 30s, learning from the directors or actors, and then try to, get the technique or something, showing the technique.
Yeah.
Sometimes that kind of period I had, of course.
Yeah.
But especially this one, the Shogun, I've done producing as well.
Yep.
So before I'm standing in front of the camera, I prepare everything, from the script, stuffing, casting, rehearsing, coaching, everything. So when I do acting as an actor, I felt so freedom. And then nothing to do, maybe just be there as a character and then react to others.
Yeah.
So very simple, basic thing, but because I've done producing and spent 7 years before start shooting, that's why I could relax and just be there.
Yes.
Just enjoying.
伊豆の侍たちよ、我が法友にして一連卓上の同志柏木藪重殿の軍勢に目通りが叶い喜ばしく思うぞ。今や国運が日の本を覆わんとしておる。我らはおごり高ぶった逆賊から日の本を守らねばならん。太閤殿下のご意志を汚す者どもに天誅が下されんことを。
When I was kid, maybe my second movie, there was a snowing set.
Yeah.
We've shot in the snow, real snow, before going to the set. So I knew how cold is it.
Yeah.
On set, there is a cotton or salt, fake snow was there. But one scene, my father hit me, and a misunderstanding. I'm, not guilty, but he misunderstood and hit me. And I said, "I hate you, father!"
Yeah.
And then running into the snow. The rehearse, and then I went out for the fake snow. But for the first shooting, he hit me really hard, and I was almost crying. "I hate you, father!" And then I grabbed the shoes and then went into the fake snow.
Right.
Or, maybe reminds of me how cold outside after really hit and then really hate him.
Yeah.
And it was my first improvisation in my life, I think. But everyone enjoyed and then approached to me. Now, wow, what a wow. I felt like
That feeling with the audience. Yeah.
And this time, as a Tranaga, react to others with empty mind.
Yeah, it's very stoic. It's very
Yeah.
stoic. I mean, that's why it's interesting because, obviously in the 1600s, it's really about like love and war and power. Like is what I gathered from it. But it's interesting because there's obviously the novel, there's the 80s series, and there's this series. And they all are like the same story but have different nuances. And even Tornado's character wasn't always as stoic. So I'm curious for you, like, in coming to this project, like you said, 7 years before shooting, what was it about this version of the story that made you initially want to be a part of Shogun in this space?
It was a great experience, First of all, I accept to, join to the project as an actor only.
Yeah.
Then after that, a few years later, Justin and Rachel creators came in.
Producing.
And then
And your first time producing, correct?
Yes, very first time.
Yes. I want to get into
in
that.
my life.
Uh-huh.
Almost 60 years acting. And the first time producing. So I was like a newborn baby. And then every day on set, checking everything before crew and cast coming.
Yep.
And decoration and everything. And I really enjoyed, involving for the creation from the beginning.
Yeah.
Or from the zero.
Yeah.
Then shooting. And until final moment, we discussed a lot, try to get the best shot
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed, and then I never felt tired.
You were inspired. That's probably why.
Some energy came into my body,
It's producer energy, where you just know you can't sleep.
Yeah, that's
you have
why
to keep going.
my first experience.
Yes, yes.
And then when other actors get applause, I'm so happy, like a parent.
Yes, yes.
More than people applaud my performance.
Your performance.
So every shot, I check the monitors, and then, yes.
How would you say that your cumulative experience of acting really kind of helped you as a producer to understand even the role of producing better, being an actor? How would you say that?
Yeah, especially after The Last Samurai. During The Last Samurai as well, I consulted about my culture, and then director asked me to remain for the post-production and check all the, dailies and then screenings and then take a note. So that was the beginning of, training as a producer.
Yeah.
So after that, every single project, TV or movie, I try to, make as more authentic as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like Minamata with Johnny Depp. I had a headset and then check.
Oh, you had the whole outfit.
Dialogue, extras, movement, everything checking. So those kind of experience helped me
to understand, and how to execute that role.
So, but I just started to think, I felt a limit to say something correct, as an actor.
Yeah.
Then this time, got a title of the producer.
You're like, I have permission to do this now.
First time ever.
Yep.
So much easier. Doing same thing.
Yeah.
But not alone this time. I could hire Japanese specialists for the samurai movies.
Yeah.
For each department.
Yeah.
So I had a team.
Yeah.
So before I've done everything by myself.
Yes.
But now I have a team.
Yeah.
Much easier and so much fun.
Yeah.
People listening to me, and peacefully we can, correct everything. So, oh my God, this is the meaning of title.
Yeah. You're like, I've accomplished it. I got it.
Like Toranaga thought.
Yes.
Title of Shogun.
Yep.
He didn't need, but finally.
Yeah.
Oh, without title, I cannot make a peaceful era.
I mean,
so
it's fascinating.
I crossovered.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because I also think about, like, obviously the journey and the evolution of the series, but also the journey and evolution of the script, right? Because I know that obviously 70% of the show is in Japanese and needed to be and wanted to be for it to be authentic and representative, but also that the script went through so many different journeys. Like, talk to me about that, because I know the script was written, then it was translated, and then once it was translated, some of the things weren't landing as one had thought.
It was so much fun, back and forth many times, English, Japanese. So first of all, first draft, Justin sent me. I check, all the stereotypical or a little misunderstanding, cut. I put the note. Then writer's room fixed it. Then I watched it. And then if it's okay, let's translate to Japanese. And translated script went to the drama writer in the period drama specialist. And then I checked that and then correct some words and then retranslate it, because sometimes we have to change the way to say.
Like the context.
Yeah. And then Justin needed to know what they translated. And then from that, they arranged again, respect our way to say, and then put into the English version of script.
Yeah.
So those kind of things happen maybe 6-7 times for each episode.
Wow.
So spend all day for the weekend for the creating next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And you all also shot in order and sequence as well, correct? You all shot the sequences and the episodes in order. Do you prefer shooting in order? Is that easier as an actor to kind of?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But sometimes, we don't care.
Yeah.
We are actor. Or sometimes, shoot the ending scene first.
Yeah.
Then middle, beginning.
Yep.
But it's good. We know the goal.
Yep.
So we can calculate.
Yeah.
And then take a contrast and a balance, dynamics.
Yes.
So that's not bad way.
Yeah.
But basically, we shot by order.
明智仁斎殿は勇敢で真偽に厚く尊敬に値する御人であった。無念であったろう。そなたはお父上の後を追うことを許されなんだ。藤殿も同じこと。忠義という名の戦場から遠ざけられ生きる意味を奪われたのじゃ。もしわしがそなたの主家として生きる意味を取り戻してやれるとしたら。
What I find interesting is like in the novel and then in the series in the 80s, I feel like Blackthorn was like the lead character, and I feel what was different about this one, which I loved, is that like he was one of many characters instead of just like the lead. And also his relationship with Tornado, I think was just so interesting. Every episode, you're like, do they like each other? Do they love each other? They're saving each other's lives. Like they're friends, they're not friends. I'm also just curious about like, you know, the relationship and what that aspect is like.
Yeah, we didn't discuss much, you know, just, minimum conversation before shooting. And little by little, episode by episode, we created the chemistry organic way. Not try to, you know, calculate how much this point, friendship or hate. Never talk about that. Just felt each other and then created, you know, friendship in little by little, organic way. We both accepted without the word. So it was so much fun. Yeah, nothing too worried about that.
I mean, in the cast, because he's one of many characters, and you have Anna and Lady Mariko, like, talk to me about that. Because listen, everybody was upset when she died in the episode. Everyone's like, no! But I'm just curious, like, what the cast, you know, what the energy was like on set with the cast, because like you said, you felt everything, right? You didn't have all of these conversations before, so it felt as an audience reading it and watching it and seeing it, it felt so organic. So I'm just curious about like the cast chemistry with the entirety of the cast.
Mariko's role is the most important role in season 1, and then her death is in the novel, of course. Yeah. So everybody had to expect. And then especially the episode 9, I had no scene as a Toranaga, as an actor. So on set every day as a producer, and second to Anna, you know, Lady Mariko. So always she asking me about the dialogue, because it's Shakespeare Japanese. So hard to her for first experience to speaking that. So every weekend we had a Zoom and taught her the rhythm, intonation, subtext or something. And on set, I was like, you know, she was a boxer. I was a second. So episode 9 is, you know, one of my favorite, because I was involved, the pure producer as a producer. No acting. So I could be on set every single scenes. So taught to ninjas, taught to young actors. So much fun. So I'm so proud of her, you know, her talent and effort. Mentally, physically, so hard.
Because she had to be like multilingual, just in terms of like multicultural, she also, and then had to fight. Like there's so many different elements to find someone to really, I think, embody that role and for it to feel as comfortable as it did with her.
Then she never gave up.
I'm curious because, you know, we talk about just like the research and the authenticity that I think is required, you know, and having a real cultural, historical element to this. Like, how important was that, you know, for you being a producer in this space, like to make sure that it was representative and as authentic as it possibly could be?
Because, you know, this is based on the novel, and the novel is inspired by real history and models. But novel itself and this show itself is entertainment, and we created our original way. So fictional entertainment. That's why we needed to create authentic as much as possible to make story and character believable, and then to focus on to the story and into the character. So it's a best service to the audience, we thought.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge? Because I know you didn't shoot in Japan. Did you shoot in Vancouver?
All in Vancouver.
And during the pandemic?
No shooting in Japan because of pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, different from the first plan. But
but adjusted accordingly, it's fine.
Yeah. Luckily, we finished the shooting. And also, 70% Japanese dialogue with subtitle was kind of challenging. But we believed the audience, their intelligence and the imagination.
Yeah.
They can research everything nowadays.
Yeah, in a matter of seconds.
Different from 80s. And then also, we put the Japanese lenses in the script. Not only blue eyes lenses.
Yes.
So, we had our own way to show this story to the world, more easy to understand and also more detailed.
Yeah.
So, and then we had a great, fantastic reaction from the audiences. More than we expected.
I mean, and I think what's interesting is there's a built-in audience, I believe, obviously, from the novel who understand the historical context. There's a built-in audience from the individuals who maybe understood, like, the series. But then you have also a subset of, like, just a brand new audience. Like, there's also an audience that doesn't know the context and only knows, like, this looks amazing, it sounds amazing, the characters are so good, and really understanding from that perspective. So I think the audience is even expanded beyond. But I'm curious, were you overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support for the project?
I believe so. So many novels fan of 80s original dramas fans there, plus young audiences, newcomers. So that helped us a lot, I believe. Yeah, and then old fan wants to see what's the difference.
Something.
Like
Somebody
that.
just wants something to talk about. 100%.
Yeah, so we were lucky. All of them supported us. So I'd like to say thank you for all the viewers in the world.
And not only the audience as fans, but also your peers, in the Television Academy as well. So I'm just so curious on Emmy nomination morning, like what was that like for you all, like to just see, and record breaking, by the way.
Oh my goodness, yes. 25 nominees.
Did you think it would be that? Like, did you?
I've never have imagined when we shot in Vancouver in the rain all day. But, more than expected. So I'm so proud of my crew and cast. And, it was a great surprise for me. I'm so happy. Even just nomination is crazy thing. So big for me, So, I don't know what's going to happen on the day, but I don't care. Just, it's happy enough for now. I want to enjoy my first experience in my life.
Yes. And not only as producer, and not only now able to wear the headset, but also able to say Emmy nominated. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the series is like the themes. Fate, I feel like I was introduced like even in the first episode, and you saw that interwoven into the entire thing, as well as like patience, like with the owl. So I'm just curious, like for you personally, what is your stance on like fate? Even Lady Mariko's character's like, we live and we die, and that's just it. And then other characters really believe that you could bend fate. I'm just curious, like your idea of like fate, and patience.
Here is already fate for me. Yeah, I started as a child actress, and then all the things happen, and then now, so. All the experience in my life brought me here. All experience supported me and trained me. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone in my life I met and experienced. Yeah, exactly the fate. Everything is connected. That brought me here.
And I feel like I closely relate to that, as I think many people do, as it relates to just things line up, as you said. Like, had you not been able to go to the play in New York, you don't know if you would have done The Last Samurai. All of these little moments that accumulate towards big moments.
Yeah. All the hints
Yeah.
and some inspiration from someone, something. Yeah, everything came into my DNA, So all the experience.
So before we wrap, are you excited now would you consider just producing, or would you consider in your next role that you want to be a producer, now understanding it and having the title as we talk about?
Yeah, I'd like to do both. Sometimes, doing both like this time.
Yeah.
Sometimes just concentrate for the acting.
Yeah.
And enjoy the acting. Or sometimes just as a producer. All depends on the script or project.
Yeah.
If I think I need to produce, I'll do. But I'd love to do, both. Keep running.
Something tells me with the success of what Shogun has already been and what it will continue to be past the Emmys, that you will definitely get more than enough opportunity to continue to do that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully so. That's it.
Yeah.
That's our show for today. We want to thank you so much for joining us this Emmy season. It's been a pleasure hanging with you guys again.
Watching a lot of content.
Thank you. Give me words of affirmation all the time.
It's been amazing hanging with you too.
You love every second.
Every second.
We hope you'll join us this fall for Oscar season. Until then, be sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts.